tried nearly every peptide on the planet, and I've spent tens of thousands of dollars learning the lesson that you can't just take these peptides alone and expect crazy results. Nearly all of them require full protocols around them, and in this video, I'm going to teach you what the most popular ones require in order to work the way you want them. People spend thousands of dollars every day expecting to get these results from peptides, and they're not going to get them because nobody's teaching them how to actually use them. So in this video, I'm going to save you guys the money that I wasted on myself so that you don't have to. Now, let's get into how you can get all of the muscle building, all of the fat loss, all of the cognitive enhancement that you were promised without wasting all your money. If you're new to this page, I am one of the biggest advocates for using peptides to change your physical, mental, emotional state for the better, but it is important to note that every one of these protocols is going to require effort and that you can't just bank on the peptide alone to give you the results. Now, before we get started, it is important to note that I'm not a doctor, nor should anything in this video be misconstrued with medical advice. And if you're going to go through any of these protocols and treatments, only make sure you're doing so with the direct supervision of a medical director or licensed physician. Now, let's get into the video. We're going to be going over peptides that are going to be good for muscle gain, good for fat loss, sleep, recovery, everything in between. I'm going to be making sure that you guys understand exactly what's necessary to get those benefits. Now, what is important to understand is you're never going to take a peptide and get actually nothing. A lot of these guys are just getting 20, 30, or even 50% of what they should be getting from peptides. Now, my goal in this video is to make sure that we're going from that 30 or 40% and getting all the way up to a full 100% usage of what these peptides truly can deliver. I've been able to have incredible results for myself, but it was only after going through all the trials and tribulations of failures and not getting those results before I learned how to make them work. So for saving you guys hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, the least you could do is like and maybe subscribe. All right, now let's get this party started. I want you guys to start by imagining your body is a fully functioning city. Buildings, roads, waterways, electricity, everything that makes up a city is your body fully functioning. And every new peptide is like adding a new feature to your city. Some of them are like adding new restaurants. Now we got a little bit more of a culinary flair. Some of them are like adding new electrical systems so that we have more power throughout the city. There's going to be 2 or 3 peptides that are at the foundation of every protocol in order to make them work. And then for each peptide, I'll talk about some of the nuanced stuff that's going to make them work even better. But as a baseline, as a general rule of thumb, for almost any peptide protocol, to make it work at 100%, you're going to need these 2 to 3 things. The first is BPC-157 mixed with TB-500. As opposed to the other peptides being like adding in restaurants, hotels, and nightlife, BPC-157 and TB-500 are like making sure your city has proper roadways so that people can get to these new restaurants, to these hotels, to these new things that are opening. If there's nowhere for them to drive on the road, they can't get to where you're going. BPC-157 is a repair signal that's made in your stomach. It modulates nitric oxide in order to improve blood flow. It's also going to upregulate our growth factors, which is going to become really important when we talk about IGF and our GH pulse. A lot of people, in my opinion, are using BPC-157 wrong. They're waiting to use it until after something goes bad, like they have a crazy injury, which is going to be really effective for that, don't get me wrong, but that's not where I see it being the most useful. Where I see it being the most useful is the foundation of any other peptide protocol you're going to run in order to make sure you're getting the most out of all of those other peptides. I'll break this down a little bit more in depth. But the second half of that is TB-500. TB-500 regulates your cells in order to speed up tissue repair. This makes the body incredibly effective at reducing inflammation. And this is the #1 reason people struggle with peptides, is because their body is so inflamed. So whatever they're trying to put into their body, the body is rebounding it back out because it's so inflamed. And people don't realize how bad this is, especially in their organs. We see it a ton of times in the gut, the liver, the kidney, and a lot of different areas of the body. Inflammation is going to be the #1 killer of peptides. The BPC-157 and the TB-500 together are going to be like making sure your roads are fixed, your power lines are intact, and your waterways are running so that all of the restaurants, all of the hotels, all of the houses, everything that happens in the city has functioning ability to do what it needs to do. At the very minimum, if you're going to do anything, make sure you have this at the foundation of your stack, because I guarantee you at least one of your internal city's utilities is probably broken. You just don't know it. And if you'd like to prove me wrong, go get a blood test and tell me all your biomarkers are great, and I'll eat my words. Now, that's what you're going to need at introductory level. Now, for those of you that want to get a little more advanced with this, the second half of this is going to be something that I have newly discovered, which is Pinealon. Now, I've always known about Pinealon's ability to make the brain operate at a higher level. I did not realize what its effects are on improving every receptor receptor in the brain and body. If you don't know already, all peptides are doing are giving the body a set of instructions saying, I want you to perform this mechanism that you already do. I just want you to do it at a higher rate. So when we talk about things like increasing growth hormone, the body already produces growth hormone. We're just telling it to produce more. When we talk about increasing fat loss, the body already has a metabolic function. We're just telling it to upregulate it. Same thing with cognitive, same thing with any of these peptides. So when it comes to how those instructions are received in the body, it all stems from the receptors in the brain that can take in those requests and make sure the body is providing that function. So back to our city. Now let's say we've reached the 70s and the 80s and we need an internet connection. Pinealon is like the cell towers that is going to make sure everybody is connected on the same cell service. So now instead of having to mail a physical letter and wait a week for it to get to your buddy and then wait another week for it to get back to you, we're going to see these three at the base of nearly every peptide protocol because each of them are drastically improved by the functionalities that I just laid out. Okay, now let's get into some of the more specific stuff. We'll start with my favorite peptide of all time, Tesa-IPA blend, which stands for Tesamorelin Ipamorelin blend. It's a growth hormone secretagogue. What I'm going to go over here is going to be relevant for pretty much any GH peptide, but specific to Tesa-IPA, here's how you get it to work the best. Tesamorelin is a growth hormone releasing hormone, GHRH, which tells your pituitary gland to pulse growth hormone. Ipamorelin stimulates ghrelin, which just makes you more hungry. Both of these are going to have their own methods of increasing growth hormone. Now, in order for that growth hormone to convert to muscle, it has to bind to receptors in the liver and the muscles to hopefully convert into IGF-1. This is the actual signal that builds new nerves in the muscle, as well as increases the body's ability to burn fat. The BPC-157 and TB500 are going to increase the pathway and the signaling to the growth hormone receptors by increasing its nitric oxide, which is going to be our blood flow, the way that the information and everything travels through the body. Better blood flow also means more GH can be delivered to all parts of the body. So remember how we talked about BPC-157 and TB500 being those roadways? This is making sure that our truck full of materials is getting to where we need them to go. Now, the pinealon is going to focus on the glands, the pituitary and the hypothalamus, which is going to be the main two areas that we need to be sending out those signals in the first place. So the pituitary and the hypothalamus release the growth hormone, so the pituitary makes it so that that signal that it's putting out is strong enough, and then the BPC and the TB are taking that signal and then saying, okay, I got the call in from the boss, let me start delivering the materials where they need to go. So this means that not only is the body going to be able to transport more growth hormone, but it's also going to be able to receive and use the growth hormone that's being transported more effectively. This is how you go from 20 to 30% use all the way up to 80% use. Now, if you want to get this all the way up to 100% use, there's a few things to follow. Number one thing with growth hormone releasing peptides is being fasted, both before and after injection, because if there's anything that is going to blunt growth hormone production, it's going to be carbohydrates, but really just food in general. For me, the most effective thing I found was taking it first thing in the morning and then not eating again until about 2 hours later, then going to have my pre-workout meal, then going to work out. Still being able to receive the pulse of the growth hormone, but also not interfering with my pre-workout meal in order to get the most muscle growth. This is going to promote better fat loss, easier muscle gain, and you're going to see all of the benefits that you're looking for from GH, including things like skin, hair, better sleep, everything that comes with it. This is why Tesa-IPA is my favorite. It's just unbeatable. All right, next, moving into the most popular peptide on the marketplace today, Retatrutide. Retatrutide is a triple agonist, meaning it's activating your three receptors, the GLP-1, the GIP, and the glucagon. This means three things are going to happen. Number one, your appetite is not going to be nearly as strong as it was, which is most people's reason for being overweight in the first place. Number two, we're going to be able to burn the calories in a resting state at a higher level than we did before. So theoretically, you could just not change anything and you will burn more calories as long as you're using Retatrutide. And number three, food is no longer going to get stored as fat. We're going to start using it for energy, which is one of the biggest differences between this and any of the other GLPs, is that it's actually making your body more efficient at using food and nutrients. Your GLP-1 receptors are primarily produced in the gut, and nearly everybody's gut is inflamed, they just don't know it. Inflammation reduces the receptor sensitivity, which is why some people might not get as good of benefits from things like GLP-1s. Now, for some people, they notice it right away, they're never hungry, and they're burning fat like no tomorrow. That was me. But for a lot of people, sometimes they have to get higher and higher doses, and then they start questioning if the product's working. A lot of times this is due to inflammation in the gut that is causing your receptors to be blocked. This is also the same thing that triggers nausea or vomiting or some of the other side effects you might have heard about GLP-1s. A lot of them come from inflammation in the gut, not necessarily from adverse reactions to the drug itself. BPC-157 and TB500 are really effective at repairing gut microlining. This is going to drastically cut down on inflammation and give your receptors the ability to hear the signal that your body's telling it. Now, if you know anything about the gut, it's heavily connected to our brain. Using the Pinealon is going to smooth over that brain-gut connection so that the body doesn't know that it needs to be inflamed. This is going to even further lower the nausea or any other side effects people might notice while using GLPs. So imagine we've got Retatrutide as our super high-powered Formula One race car. The gut is our fuel delivery system. BPC 157 and the TV 500 are our master mechanics that are going to go into our fuel delivery system and patch up any leaks and make sure that everything runs cleanly and smoothly. This keeps the driver much more calm because now he's not feeling any sputtering or stop and go while he's trying to drive his Formula One race car. Calmness is the key to inflammation. A lot of it is created from ourselves in our brains. That's how we can go from 40% effectiveness all the way to about 70 or 80%. Now, if you want to get the full benefits of Retatrutide without the one drawback, which is muscle wasting, which they're proving more and more does happen even on Retatrutide, although it is much less than most of the other GLPs, there's only two things you have to do. The first one is make sure that you are staying above 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every single day, non-negotiable. The biggest thing that happens to people is their hunger is now suppressed, so they can't reach their protein goal and they start withering away. The second thing is make sure your hormonal balance is in check. This is going to be one of the biggest drivers in making sure your body is still able to recover and grow muscle and do all of the things that it's supposed to do, even in a fasted state or a caloric deficit. Then we get every man's dream, which is we are dropping fat like no tomorrow, and we're not losing any muscle, if not gaining some along the way. All right, now into number 3, which is my newfound obsession, which is mitochondrial stacks. This is things like SS31, MOTS-c, NAD+, everything so focused on cellular health. This is what I am obsessed with lately. Your mitochondria, you guys know it from 5th grade biology, is the powerhouse of the cell, meaning it's going to produce our cellular energy, which is our ATP. That's our cellular currency. Imagine our cellular energy is stored in a bank. The dollars are that ATP. How much energy we have, how many dollars we have, that's your ATP. SS31's job is to bind to the membrane, the outside of the cell, to patch up any holes where any leaks of energy could be occurring. MOTS-c, in my opinion, best taken after SS31, once we've patched up all the holes, is going to supercharge our cellular output. It does this by activating AMPK, which is your cell's master energy sensor, which is going to help you burn fat, build muscle, and create new mitochondria. Now, there's an argument to be made that this mitochondria stack should also be at the forefront of every peptide cycle, because theoretically, if your mitochondria are at full efficiency, anything else you're doing is going to require them to be at full efficiency in order to get the most results. And then NAD+ is the fuel that makes all of those cellular machines run. Now, similar to some of the other ones on this list, the BPC and the TB are really going to be helpful when it comes to blood flow. This one is called micro blood flow because we're working with tiny cells. This is going to help more of each compound reach its desired target. Now, that's helpful on its own, but the real star here is Pinealon. Pinealon is specifically going to reduce neuroinflammation, and it directly protects brain mitochondria. This gives all 3 of those peptides a cleaner, more effective environment to work in. So imagine these peptides as your body's power plant. Now, each of them is a different department of the power plant. The SS31 fixes the generator inside. Now, the MOTS-c's job is to upgrade our generators and then buy more generators so that we can get even more output. And the NAD is the fuel of all of those generators to keep the power plant running. The BPC and the TB are going to be like the logistics team, the trucks full of supplies in order to make those generators work. But Pinealon is the leader of the power plant. This is the guy in the control room with all the buttons that says, I want to make sure that our generators are running at this capacity during this time of the day that are going to output this much power for our city to use in the rest of its endeavors. Some other supplementation you can do to get more out of your mitochondria production and your peptides are things like PQQ and CoQ10, both of which are going to help stimulate new mitochondria as well as shuttle electrons into the existing mitochondria. That mixed in with some zone 2 cardio 3-4 times a week will improve every measurable metric on the body. If you guys know me, I'm not much of a cardio guy, but if it comes to the mitochondria, I'll make sacrifice. Next is another one in my top 5, Epitalon. Guys, I am obsessed with this peptide. It is one of the most effective things I have seen at making my body more efficient at rest, recovery, being in a well-positioned state in order to have optimal output. Epitalon stimulates the pineal gland to increase melatonin to rebalance our circadian rhythm, meaning it's going to train our body to get back to what a natural circadian rhythm should be so that we're going to sleep at the right time and waking up at the right time. And while we're in our sleep, we are getting deep, well-rested sleep. This makes probably some of the biggest difference in your overall mood and cognitive output because a lot of people don't realize that they are not well-rested, that their brain is exhausted, and here's how you can make it work the best. Again, the BPC and TB are going to be helpful with oxidative stress and tissue health, but the big star here, again, Pinealon. These two work very synergistically. Pinealon makes sure that your pineal gland is operating at peak efficiency. It doesn't directly improve the pineal gland, but it makes it more adept at receiving the signal that the Epitalon is sending it, so that it can then perform better based on what the Epitalon's instructions are. Imagine our body's one big clock. Think about Big Ben. And Epitalon is the master repairman that goes in and fixes every spring, every coil to make sure our clock is operating on the right time. BPC and TB are going to make sure that our metal isn't rusting on our clock, that we're not getting stuck in certain positions. But here, Pinealon is going to be the guy that goes in and makes sure that we are set to the correct time, and when it comes time for daylight savings, is going to go in and move it forward an hour or back or whatever direction we need to operate at our peak output. Pinealon is going to be the controller there. I've run Epitalon a few times now. The best thing I noticed to pair it with is spermidine, which it comes from exactly what it sounds like. This is going to improve cellular renewal and trigger autophagy, meaning killing off some of our older decrepit cells. I also used this while I did my FOXO4 run. Now, I'm not going to sit here and recommend FOXO4 to you guys because I'm going to wait to see how that affects my body before I make any recommendation. Spermidine is going to give it that extra 20-30%, really just by clearing the dust off of the inner workings of the clock to prevent any future problems from happening. Something else that's going to make this stuff work even better is helping that circadian rhythm reset, which is going to be getting early morning sunlight as soon as you wake up, seeing some sort of light, as well as a consistent sleep schedule. Something a lot of you guys have claimed to love on this page is the Selank combo. This is also one where I hear a lot of people that didn't do it properly and didn't get the effects they were looking for, but anybody that did do it right loves it. Cmax upregulates our BDNF, our brain-derived nootropic factor, the way that our brain makes connections. This is going to drive neuroplasticity, focus, memory, while Selank modulates GABA, which is the way that our body processes stress. An overstressed mind is not a mind that can think clearly, so Selank's job is to really go in and clear the smoke out of the air so that you can see the end goal. As you can imagine, Pinealon is super effective here once again. It's really good at clearing that neuroinflammation so that the Cmax and the Selank can actually reach its desired target to make sure that you're getting those crazy focus benefits as well as those incredible stress relief benefits. BPC 157 and TV 500 also master inflammatory. That's going to be a little more systemic. The Pinealon is going to be much more brain focused. Guys, you're starting to understand the point by now. Inflammation is the peptide killer. Do everything you can do to make sure it is under control. When your receptors are primed and ready to receive instructions, increasing your BDNF, increasing the connections in the brain becomes effortless, as well as modulating the way that your body's going to handle that stress, making sure your GABA receptor is in peak condition to make sure that the Cmax can send the proper instruction so that your body's not overwired and tweaked out all the time. You can imagine why people love this combination so much, because during the day, you're going to feel sharp, on it, and super smart. And then at night, you're going to feel super relaxed, a serene experience. I can't explain to you how awesome it is to feel that Selank at night without it sounding like some sort of drug. It's kind of, but it's not. It just feels clear. These two I've become such a big fan of over the years as I've found how to properly use them. Again, the biggest issue we see with people is that their inflammation is stopping them from getting the most use out of these, usually because of some sort of bad diet, usually relating to something like seed oils or just improper nutrients, or things like bad sleep habits, or even things like other medications that are causing these spikes in inflammation. And at the end of the day, the BPC 157, TV 500, and Pinealon is just going to make everything else work the way that you've been told it's going to work. So guys, if you're interested about learning more about how to optimize the human body and you're interested in this kind of knowledge, I make 2 videos like this every single week where I break down some way to improve you as a human being. If you're interested in something like that, hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you can see the next time each one comes out, and I will see you guys in the next one.